Good evening and welcome. My name is John Estrom. I am the CEO of Hammer Residences, and it's great to have you here tonight. A really warm welcome to all of you, all of our Hammer friends, both friends for a long time, in some cases for many, many decades, and new friends who we just met tonight at our Reach for Ralph. So thanks again for joining us. You may or may not have known that Hammer was such a full-service organization that we gave you a nice little refreshing shower as you left your car to get here tonight, so no extra charge for that. It's all part of the admission. Tonight you're going to meet individuals supported by Hammer. You're going to find out what they like to do for fun, and you're going to find out about their friends and those really important relationships that they make with one another, and how they like to stay active and involved in their community. Hammer's person-centered approach offers each individual the opportunity to live everyday life, filled with friends and activities, filled with all sorts of things just like you and I. People who live with disabilities desire about their life is exactly the same as your desires and my desires. And that's what Hammer tries to do, to provide just a life that is rich with family and friendship and community and activity. That's what we strive for. So the goal of this evening, as you well know, this is no surprise to any of you, the goal is to raise funds to help individuals make positive connections in the community, to make friends, to maintain those relationships which for all of us are so life-giving and so important. So together tonight in this room, we can positively impact the lives of individuals who are supported by Hammer. Reach for Ralph was inspired by Ralph Rosenwald, who was supported by Hammer for over 70 years. He lived with us for a very long time, and Hammer became a big part of his family. And some of his family, some of his relatives are here tonight and have continued to remain great friends of Hammer. So all of you relations of Ralph, where are you? You're right there. There's the table right there. Ralph had a lot of friends at Hammer. He was very well known and a great inspiration for so many people. And one good friend Ralph had was Mary LaRoche, who is still supported by Hammer at our Black Oaks home. Mary has lived as independently as possible for 40 years with Hammer. Speaking of lifelong friends, speaking of how life intertwines in relationships, it reminds me of in my own life. I was a very young teenager. You know, that awkward age between not really being all that interested in the rec activities of the park board program where I grew up, but not quite old enough to get a real job outside of a paper route. So I guess I was underfoot that summer. And probably Mom and Dad were a little annoyed at me. And one day Mom said to me, "You're coming with me." Okay? I always say I liked to eat at night, so if Mom said, "You're coming with me," I went with her because she controlled that. So we went, and what it was a small recreation program. This was the 70s when there wasn't much organized. It was a small recreation program which had grown up, run by parents for their children who lived with disabilities. It was called Edina Special Children's Group. And I went along. And we played baseball and we did all sorts of things that summer. And I knew by the end of that summer that something had happened to me even at a young age. and that the relationships that I built then, I wasn't much older than the young people in the program, but those relationships were important to me. Little did I know that this many years later, over 40 years later, that some of those very same young people are living at Hammer. That's how life goes, right? Our relationships, they build and they grow. Maybe we separate for a while and then they come around again. So young people like Andy's here, and Brian and Molly, these are people who I've known for a really long time. And it's fun now to be with them again in this different way in relationship. The importance of relationships cannot be overstated in our society. It's so important that we stay connected with one another, that we know each other's story, that we have people in our lives who honor our story and walk with us in good times and in bad. And that's really what our evening is about, is celebrating those relationships. Relationships among the people we support, relationships between the people we support and staff and families and all of us who comprise the Hammer family. Those relationships are what makes life worth living, really, for all of us. It is so exciting to be in a room full of people who live in relationship with one another. It's very exciting for me. And before I move on, I want to say one other thing. And that is, as family, as people in relationship, we care about one another's well-being. And I would be remiss in a room full of over 400 friends of Hammer not to say to you in this election year to don't forget to vote. Now, why would I tell you don't forget to vote? For the people that we support, the substantial portion of the funding which allows them to live quality lives in the community comes from Medicaid, or what we call medical assistance in Minnesota. That's what pays for the supports, for the staff, for a lot of the daily activities, is through the Medicaid program, or medical assistance in Minnesota. So we encourage you to tell stories to politicians if you see them at a parade or a picnic. If you know a politician, even if you don't know. I talked to a politician recently. He said if he gets 4 personal things, either talking to or a handwritten note on any topic, that's a lot. He gets hundreds and hundreds of forwarded emails, and he counts them. It's important. But he doesn't hear very many stories, and he doesn't get very many personal, "This is important to me." So, whatever happens, we want to make sure that in any readjusting of the Medicaid program, that people living with disabilities are not forgotten. Because for them, Medicaid is not just about health care. It's about daily life. It's about everything. And so tell that story. Pay attention, vote, and share the story of Hammer and your relationships with Hammer.